never mind.
You look like a man who'd spend his free time feeding swans with bread from his mouth.
Tell them what that's about. They need an explanation.
No, you have the photo. You can, those photos will be leaked at some stage. But
it's a long.
To use Newry vernacular, he was shifting swans. Sorry.
1988.
1988, yeah.
A flock of swans, a herd of swans. That's what they are. Not a flock, they're a herd of swans. On the Newry Canal, proving the point that it is possible to demonstrate that swans aren't vicious and evil creatures. Feed them with a piece of bread in your mouth, having judged the distance from swan outreach to your mouth exactly right.
There's going to be a bunch of kids on the canal.
Oh, no,
with bread in their mouth.
No, don't do that to me. It has never happened. No. Now, listen to me.
Right.
Outrage at the new name. What's that about?
What do you think, Rowan? The people of South Armagh, Ringagullion area are less than impressed with the new name given to the council.
Okay, try the two names on me. What did they want? Can you
They
recall?
wanted Newry, Mourne and Gullion.
Newry, Mourne and Gullion.
Mm-hmm. They got Newry, Mourne and Down, even though you could argue Mourne and Down is a replication, plus it's not geographically accurate because there's 4 other councils that could claim to be called Down.
Okay. Am I allowed to change my mind?
You can do whatever you want.
Newry, Mourne and Gullion. Newry, Mourne and Down. Newry, Mourne retains the branding benefit.
Of what? What is the branding benefit?
The building on the last, the last life of the council.
Well, in terms of tourism...
Hear me out. We come to the situation where we have Newry, Mourne, that's the branding taken care of, and Gullion. Mm-hmm. That's a little frisson, a little sprinkling of magical dust in there.
Sounds a bit romantic.
To make people go, what is this place?
Exactly.
Outstanding natural beauty. Yeah, I would have gone for Newry, Mourne and Gullion. There you are, a back down. You needn't be coming in buses to lynch me out of South Armagh. It's not going. It's a good idea. Newry, Mourne and Gullion. It should have been.
Well, as you can imagine, the people of South Armagh aren't taking it too happily, and a number of letters of objection have been lodged with the council in relation to the choosing of the name. Now, if you look at what's happened in North Down and Ards, where they had decided to call themselves East Coast, public objection has led to the council to reconsider.
So maybe there's precedent.
There is precedent. There's also precedent if you consider Derry City Council in 1984. Prior to that had been known as Londonderry City Council. They changed their name based on what the chamber wanted. So they can change the name if they want. Now, the thing that is interesting, and it's pointed out in our coverage of the story this week, is if it is at the council's discretion, and this problem has existed for the last 40 years since Newry and Mourne Council was established. The Gullion issue is effectively ignored for 40 years, even though the council could have addressed it and changed it.
It was a different Gullion then, for goodness sake.
How is it? It's the same mountain that's been
there. No. There is now the development of the product, the Gullion product. And that Gullion product is so strong that it should be included today. That's my belief. And, who would it offend if we dropped the name down? It's not going to offend anybody.
Not particularly. I mean, your producer today is a former down footballer.
Can we just stop one thing here? I don't have a producer. I produce myself.
All right.
Right. Just want to get that out of the way.
You produce yourself. You're like a worm. You're what's the word?
Thank you very much for that nice
Cut you in half and there's 2 of you.
You couldn't put up with 2 of me.
Your producer today is a former down Gaelic footballer. And in newspaper articles, I'm sure he was equally referred to as playing for the Mourne men as he was for playing for Down. For looking in from the outside, whatever about what someone from Killock or Ardglass
I've already agreed with you in all of this. I'm agreeing with you.
You're millions of viewers.
I'm agreeing with you. I think it's right. If we drop Down, it wouldn't matter. A ball of blue, let it go. And have Newry, Mourne and Gullion.
I'll get back to the photo on the front page in a second.
It's fabulous.
Speaking about Breakfast Show with millions of viewers,
yes.
The reporter was referenced on This Morning on ITV last week.
Really?
In relation to an advertisement for every girl's darling, Eamon Holmes, appearing at the Peppermint Gardens nightclub in Mourne Point in 1985. So we have the transcript of the conversation relating to Eamon's time in Mourne Point on page 2 of the paper.
May I tell you with honesty of the link between myself and Holmes and that time when he went to UTV.
Right.
I had gone to the BBC in Belfast. I'd been headhunted by a lovely man called Dan Gilbert from RTE. And I agreed to come up with Dan to produce PM Ulster. And in my first month there, UTV contacted me and said, Rowan, we wonder, would you be interested in joining us? We are creating a new program. It was Farmgate. And I said, well, I'll give it some thought.
I am a man of the soil, after all.
My loyalty was to Dan Gilbert and the BBC, and I stayed. Huh? And guess who they got to present Farmgate?
Holmes.
Eamon Holmes.
Oh.
There you are. So Holmes got what I said no to.
And in terms of the trajectory of the two of you since then, do you wish you'd taken Farmgate?
I'm very, very pleased.
You're very pleased.
I stayed where I was.
Okay.
Because money doesn't bring happiness, you know, as he found out.
But it can buy goods and services that'll make you happy.
No.
I'm
What
joking,
do you need,
Rowan.
actually? If you think of, that's a good point. What do we need to be happy and to survive and to be at ease with life?
Well, according to Masters, Lennon and McCartney, all you need is love, Rowan.
That's exactly right. And he at one stage lost love. He lost his dear wife. She divorced
And of course,
him.
if we're staying with a musical theme, Cher pondered, do you believe in life after love, Rowan?
Life after love. I've never stopped. It has never been the case that I was unloved.
Right.
So I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Well, if our front page pictures already attracted quite a lot of attention.
Biggest on Facebook ever. The biggest
well, it's
according to your
there.
editor.
I might just yet the mountain bike launch in Rostrevor was still slightly more popular, but Eamon Fitzpatrick's image of alien attack on Rostrevor.
Which Eamon is that? Is that of FM Systems? Or
I actually don't know.
I don't know either, but he is Eamon Fitzpatrick as well.
It's an absolutely wonderful image, and
it's a wonderful image.
The odd thing is, he's not the only person making sci-fi attack images of South Down. We have a feature on page 12 of the newspaper, and Brian McCalmont, you might know, who runs the Old Warren Point Forum.
Yes.
He's also been producing sci-fi related.
There's one in there too.
So we've caught up with both men about why they've made these images, what the response has been, and where you can go to see them.
Yeah.
And the two images featured are only a selection of what's available. Some of the images are amazing. There's Narrow Water under attack.
Wow.
There's the Death Star coming in off Carlingford Loch. So there's some pretty spectacular images. There's also a video of Eamon's War of the Worlds on YouTube that's easily found.
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
You have a lovely man on page 6, Rory O'Hanlon, Dr. Rory O'Hanlon.
Dr. Rory O'Hanlon.
Nice human being.
I'm going to show my ignorance here, Rowan, and tell you that prior to speaking to Pat McParland from Camla last week, I thought Rory O'Hanlon was from Monaghan.
Oh, no.
Well, I've since learned, obviously, that he's very much a Mullaban man. And very proud of it.
Yeah, because the same kith and kin as Paddy, and that's where Paddy's buried.
So
the churchyard
we have an in-depth interview with Rory O'Hanlon where he speaks about everything, including being politics. Obviously, he was Minister for Health, Minister for Environment, and also the Ceann Ceorla of the Dáil. He also talks about childhood in Mullaban, ghosts, crisps, council names, famous sons. Obviously, he's Ardle's father. Retirement and the odd bit of politics. Now, he also gives his tuppence in relation to the naming of the new council.
What did he want?
He wanted the inclusion of his homeland, is what he wanted.
Carry on. Carry me forward.
Now, obviously, we've been extolling the virtues of the Ringagullion area, but also there are still challenges to overcome. Notably on page 3, there's a story in relation to forestry workers being threatened in the area. Well, that's what remains to be found out. They're still looking for information of why, who, and for what purpose.
It has a kind of a hint of some kind of environmentalist saying don't cut down our trees without appreciating the real necessity to so do.
I'm not sure about that, because an environmentalist would perhaps argue that the lifespan of a tree requires it to be taken down and replanted.
Some zany environmentalist.
It could have been perhaps something more sinister. We do not know. If you remember, only a year and a half ago, there was an incident at Camla Lake where Queen's University's boats were drilled through. So whilst there is humongous potential in the Ringagullion, and that needs to be supported, certainly with the name of the council, perhaps, there's also challenges to overcome.
Yeah, that's a humongous observation indeed. Yes, that's a good word. Is it a word at all, humongous?
Humongous?
Is it?
Rowan. A man like yourself who
humongous,
who uses Word of the Day toilet paper and who also eats dictionaries.
What is the word? What are you talking about? Eats dictionaries.
Yeah.
Listen, young fellow, continue on there.
Much publicised in the past week has been in relation to the cancellation of surgeries and appointments at hospitals. Now, figures released show that although 179 elective admissions were postponed across the various health trusts between January 1st and 9th, only one of those...
What page are you on there?
I'm on page 4.
Four,
only
okay.
one of those was in the Southern Trust area. So it hasn't been confirmed if that was in Newry or Craigavon.
Yes.
But theoretically, at that rate, we weren't particularly badly affected by some of the difficulties that have been ongoing.
Irish News did something a week ago.
About the A&Es.
They went round the A&Es
which
and
were
found them all
empty.
empty.
Yeah.
You know,
So you
whatever's
wonder
going on.
what exactly is going on. I have a story on page 13, or rather the ever-sensitive Ryan Sands.
You never got over that, did you?
You should listen to some of his music. He's actually... he would have been in a number of bands. He would have Sandstorm and Humblebees, but he has a new band that's worth listening to called Insects at Altitude. I'll get him to drop you over a CD. Maybe you could play some of the tracks on there.
I know the Sandstorm. On Misty Moor.
He's not that
No,
Sands. No, he's
okay.
possibly a
Not
distant
that
relative, but he's
Distant
not
relative,
the same Sands.
So his music is not the same.
His music is rather excellent, I must say.
That's
sensitive, as you'd imagine.
Yeah, of course. Trust falls below breast cancer treatment target.
Well, the story I was going to point out was the silence on the evacuation plan at Camilla Lake. So the Camilla Lake's an incredibly...
That's a kind of empty chair one. It's more like yours that than Ryan's. The 3 reporter request for information.
Empty chair.
Yeah,
empty chair.
about the council, they didn't reply to us. We wanted them to tell us, and they didn't.
There's hopefully going to be £2.5 million spent improving facilities at Camilla Lake in the not too distant future. Thousands and thousands of people use it every year, and as such, it should have an evacuation plan. If you think of any facility in the area, sports centre, any building, this building, I'm sure has an evacuation plan.
Do you know that they don't have the plan, or is it that they have the plan and they're not giving you?
I think you'd need to speak to the ever-sensitive Ryan Sands to evaluate that.
Me think it is a sin to protest too much, I tell you. Right, where are we now?
Page 14, there's a quirky little story relating to... Newry hasn't had that many professional footballers. Some of the GA boys might be getting paid, but we don't know about that. Damon, what?
What? They don't get paid. They don't get paid.
No, I know they don't get paid. I'm joking,
They don't
Ron.
get a salary.
I'm joking,
They don't get a salary.
Huh?
They don't get a
They
salary.
don't.
They don't get a salary.
Well,
they never get a salary. They get gifts in kind and whatever, you know.
And jobs in burgeoning television companies.
What do you mean burgeoning? We're there, baby.
All right. Page 14, there's a story about Colin Clark, Newry boy, done
Is
well.
that the bottom? Yeah.
Colin Clark obviously started off at Demolly and Millvale Swifts.
Wow.
There's a photograph of him circled in his younger days.
There he is.
He ended up playing for a number of top flight teams in England, including Southampton. And last week, Man United lost to Southampton at Old Trafford for the first time since 1988.
Yes.
And that's how we actually found the picture of you with your birds.
Swans.
Swans. So 1988.
Excuse me, hold your head.
Now I have an excuse for my hair looking untidy.
Your hair's fine. Your hair's fine.
So 1988, Colin Clark was playing for Southampton, and he was the last man. He downed Manchester United 2-0. Southampton beat Man United at Old Trafford, and that was the last time prior to last weekend that Southampton had beaten Man United at Old Trafford. Now, Newry hasn't, although Alex Ferguson, I believe, great-grandmother was from Newry, a lady called Susie Mansell. But other than that, Newry hasn't been too kind to the Red Devils. For example, in 1957, Peter McParland.
Yes, in the cup final.
His goals defeated Manchester United in the FA Cup final. So it's just a sort of an interesting little tale.
That early team of Colin Clark, the mentor, the manager there, I do believe that's a schoolmaster called, it could be Noel Valalay. And Noel passed away in the recent past. There were 2 brothers, and Noel, I think, was the one who died in the last month.
I believe.
A lovely human being.
Also in that photo, there's a couple of hockey internationals as well. So it was quite a talented team.
Absolutely.
If we move to page 21, there's now this may be some time off happening. But I suppose the groundwork is taking place in that there will be a planning application lodged for the revitalisation of Warm Point Baths in March. So there's one of the images of what you could have at the baths, and really it could be an amazing facility on the seafront in one point. They estimate that the price would be about £2 million, and with rates estimates taking place at the moment, don't expect it to be in the rates anytime soon. The next few years.
Are you getting a lot of feedback from the business community in the town centre over the rates? They're now saying that the rates are completely intolerable and that they've got to be reviewed again. What are you hearing?
Nobody is ever happy with rates. If you think of the principle of it, you may have a single person living in a large house, their spouse having died, their children having moved away, they're no longer work, they're on a pension, yet they're deemed more able to pay large rates based on the legacy of having a large house and a large income. Whereas you may have a small house with 6 people in it using more services, putting more waste in the system, and their rates are considerably lower. The rationale for it is ability to pay, but it's not exactly a fair or realistic means of doing that.
No, it's not. It's not. That's what the business community would tell you at the moment.
And now one of the things, this is why the reporter puts such great stock on challenging questionable council expenditure, because it ultimately has a drip-down effect on what comes out of your pocket in terms of your rates bills. That's the rationale for it. When people question, oh, you're having a go at the council, that's why.
You hear that. You hear that.
You do hear that now and again. Yeah. But that is the rationale for why the reporter challenges council expenditure. It's because it ultimately drips down to the businesses, the residents of this area, and also the services provided. Now, last year, we have a story on the rates in this week's paper as well. Last year, both Down Council and Uri Council struck 0% rate, which was crazy in many ways, because the cost of things still rise. They made no provision for the future in it, and realistically the reason they did it was because there was elections.
Yeah, of course.
So now you're going to, Finance Director Robert Dowie at the time said, you're going to pay for this for the next 3 years. So we can expect a significant rise in the rates this year. We can also expect a number of projects that had been lined up to either be cancelled or postponed. So one of the latest rumours going around is that the Town Hall project will be further reduced. It'll just be a patch job on the roof. Also the Saintfield Centre, 4.4 million planned sports centre in Saintfield. Now that's at the other end of the district, so it probably doesn't concern too many people in the Newry and Moran area, but also potentially the Newry Sports Centre Phase 2 project could be put on the long finger as the new council seeks to balance the books. Now, there have been positive soundings from the new council in that the new chief executive in the past has said he wants to set a budget for the entire term of a council, which means no electioneering rates. Rates have to be, budgets. No
repeat of what they did.
Budgets and priorities have to be set on a much longer term basis.
I see in your wonderful the local history page, you've got the boys, the Cub Scouts, and the man of Newry, he was the Scout Master Brendan Gallagher. He started the Scouts in Newry, and that's it. I was a member of the 6th Down Scouts once, would you believe? A long time ago.
Dib.
Well, good, I don't know, but there we were. We learned a lot of things about how to survive and keep going and face with all kinds of
how to feed swans with bread
swans
from your mouth.
Using your hands and all. It's all part and parcel of
Isn't
skill. Now, where are we? Take me on.
I'll take you to sport to make sure we don't miss anything in sport.
Where are we? There's boxing in there.
Of course there is.
There's but we'll
start with the football. The football season's now well and truly underway.
McKernan won't be risked.
Kevin McKernan, anyway. He was taken off, apparently badly injured at the weekend in the victory over Monaghan. But thankfully he's not, from a Down perspective, he's not badly injured. Saying that, Jim McCarry, who I believe you have on the show later on.
He's with me this morning,
wearing his other hat.
Yeah, well, he'll wear both hats.
He'll wear both hats. He won't risk Kevin McKernan in the game against UUJ Park. Although they're not called UUJ anymore, they've changed their name to Ulster University as part of a rebranding process. Okay. So he won't be risked. Again, I'd like to draw attention to the redesign of the soccer coverage in the paper. It's a lot brighter, it's a lot crisper. And City, brilliant headline, City give Broome the brush off. Newry City beat Broome Hill 3-0.
Yeah.
You can see where that headline came from.
Yes.
It's actually
Well done,
brilliant.
well done.
So
well done.
also, obviously, there's Warren Point. Town had an amazing victory over Coleraine in the Irish Cup,
Yes.
setting up a mouth-watering tie with Linfield at Windsor Park
that's gonna
in the
be
next
something.
round. So
They did very well against Linfield the last time, didn't they? I can't
they,
remember. Was it a
well,
draw?
you say
Or
that.
They were beaten by,
you say
by
that,
little.
but Newry man Mark Caughey has broken Warren Point hearts a couple of times now by popping
Yeah.
up at the very end to
Yeah.
to ruin the party, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
There's
Warren
Jason
Point,
go ahead, yeah.
Warren Point have shown that they have the ability to frustrate Linfield, possibly beat them, but in the last few
Yes.
moments it's gone bad, so to speak.
Jason Barron is there in your sports section.
Jason Barron is there, but I'll quickly refer to
go.
Armagh.
Yes.
Had a good win over Antrim. So the new era at Armagh for Kieran McGeeney is beginning with victory, obviously.
Okay.
Stephen Poacher, his latest column is in the paper as well, where he sort of has a look at the McKenna Cup and whether it is glorified challenge games. You mentioned Jason Barron. Now,
There he
Jason
is.
Barron has
He's
been
bigger than I'd thought.
well. He's a super heavyweight.
That's what I thought. I didn't know who he was. I heard you speak about him. He's a heck of a lump of a person.
He's a
there.
big guy. Well,
He is.
it's
and he's the fellow in red's going down.
Con Sheehan. Well, Con Sheehan was 6-time Irish senior champion, and he would have obviously been the favourite for the Irish Senior Championships again this year. However, at the last minute, despite having put his name in the entry ballot, Sheehan failed to weigh in for this year's Irish Championships. He's instead turning professional, which in many ways, I wouldn't say paves the way, but makes the prospect of Jason not only reaching the final, but winning the Irish Championships, which are live on TG Cahir. As semi-finals this weekend. And the thing that should be noted is if Jason wins the Irish Senior Championships, with Con Sheehan having turned professional, that makes him Irish #1 pick in terms of internationals, Olympic qualifiers. Also with that comes funding in terms of assisting your training. Now, Jason, he was telling me he trains before work, he trains after work. So he's got a very hard routine at the moment.
He sets himself the goal, doesn't he?
But that's where he's going. That photo is when he fought Con Sheehan at the stadium last year in the Irish quarterfinals. Sheehan, now the referee judged that to be a slip. However, you can watch the video on YouTube. Perhaps you might bring it up and show it on YouTube ahead of the fight itself this weekend. So in my eyes, it was a left hook and it was a knockdown. It wasn't counted. There's no doubt that Sheehan won the fight. However,
right, you're in your last few minutes, please.
In my last few minutes.
Yeah, what
is there anything you'd like to talk about, Rowan? Anything you see?
No, I'm just enthralled with
you're enthralled.
Going through it.
Unbelievable, Saints.
So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let me see.
You're running out, aren't you?
Right, well, we'll go back to the trust falling below breast cancer treatment
the one we
target.
mentioned.
Southern Trust fell well below the target of ensuring all suspected breast cancer patients are seen by a specialist within 14 days between July and September last year, according to latest figures published. Now, there's barely a family, I wouldn't think, in this area that hasn't been affected by breast cancer. So any time there's figures like that, it is of concern to people. So from that point of view, again, that's why newspapers keep a close eye on these items, highlight these items, make sure there's not only public pressure but political pressure directed at these things to make sure that all that can be done is being done. Now, something that happened over the weekend was a bomb threat at Newry and Armagh MP Conor Murphy's home. So we have hoax, but I'm sure terrifying.
Oh yeah, not
all
pleasant,
the same.
Not pleasant. Listen, thank you. You're very good. Thank you very much indeed.
You can't be good, be lucky. Well, is that it?
Destination Newry. We're back in moments.